Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I am Ben here with Dylan and Brian to talk about episode 11 of Survivor 49. We missed episode 10 because scheduling around Thanksgiving was unfortunately more difficult than we expected. But we are back here to talk about 11. Maybe splash a little bit of episode 10 in there just for context.
Yeah, do we want to eulogize Juwan before we go too far?
Yeah, and I think that, also these two episodes kind of feel like they go kind of back to back a little together because
if ever there was a time for us
to miss an episode. The logic for the Sophie vote here in episode 11 kind of derives from the Juwan move and in particular Sage's kind of storyline through the episodes. So it kind of makes sense to touch on both.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Juwan. I thought he was a fun presence on the show this season. He was playing hard. Was he playing well? Maybe not, but he was playing hard, and I appreciated that from him, and I was sad to see him go.
Yeah. I thought last week's episode was good. I thought everything post challenge was very, very entertaining. I thought it was going to maybe set the table for a little bit of eye-opening for some of these players to exactly who is in charge of everything. Did not seem to do that.
No,
I very much I like Juwan as a player. I thought he was entertaining. I don't think that he was a good player. I think that much like Sage, who we'll talk about in this episode, they were not very rational with the things that they were trying to do. And I think it was the right move for Rizzo, Savannah, and Soph because Juwan and Sage were flip-floppers. They had been for the past 2-3 weeks. So all around, it was a bonus. Well done for Savannah, Rizzo, and Soph and Sophie. Now we'll get into if that was long-term good for Sophie or not, but I think that is up for debate. I like that those four, even Sophie, I like a lot, and I would like to see all four of them play again at some point. But Juwan's entertaining. It seems like a very cool dude, and it was nice to watch him this season.
Yeah, video editor, so relatable to me anyways. So I was probably predisposed to like it, much like Justin last season as a former pizza boy. Predisposed to like them.
That's a big thing for the season is that everything post merge I've actually really liked a lot. I think it's been very, very entertaining. Even if the gameplay at times has not been the best, I think that everything that we've gotten since that merge episode has been a positive. And it's kind of helped build this season up for me in the new era for sure. I was kind of going through new era seasons that I liked, and I think that this is up there for entertaining post merges.
Oh,
so that's
quite a turnaround.
That's a big plus for this new era, especially when I was ready to stop watching, 2-3 episodes. And I do think it's like a new era all time, like bad pre-merge. But it turned around pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for now, or for me, this season is better than 48. I think on paper, if 49 and 48 aired in opposite orders, I think most people would definitively say that 48 is worse. I think the people who might be still more heavily down on 49 is just because it is the 9th season in a row of the new era and the fatigue has set in to a point where all of the little things are that much more accentuated. Things like going on pointless journeys that take up 10 minutes of screen time that are literally excruciating to watch and make me want to go take a bathroom break during them. Stuff like that. I still have trouble defending, especially when they're potentially losing a vote or introducing an advantage in at the final 7. Very dumb. But I do agree. I think that my issue with this season is the macro storytelling at this point, because it's been pretty apparent from basically like the Nate boot on that, like this Savannah, Rizzo, Soph trio are like the only three people that matter, and that everyone else is just kind of like seasoning and dressing on their story. And to me, like that's kind of taken what could be a more interesting season of gameplay, or a more interesting like past, maybe like 5 rounds of gameplay, and made it less interesting to me. And also, I think a lot of the other players like Christina in particular, Sage, this episode, like we're not really getting like a lot of cogent like rationale and strategy from them. Like basically this entire episode, everything that Christina says is indicative that she wants Savannah out, confessionals and all. And then by the end of the episode, she's voting with this, majority for Sophie. And like, you could just say like, oh, the votes weren't there. Steven wanted to vote out Sophie, like it was going to be, 5-2 or 4-3. And she just jumped on the majority because she knew she had no control. But like, that to me does not like make me take her as a player seriously. And I've basically just completely written her off at this point. And I mean, I've written Christina off for like basically like a month and a half at this point, but like still. And to me, like that's just kind of weird storytelling. And part of that might be them trying to like, do the Samoa Russell thing headed into 50, where they're like specifically trying to hype up the 2 returning players, and that's like the editing tack they're taking, which was a mistake in Samoa, and I think it's a mistake here, because we're not really getting a lot of the motives from the majority of the cast, and we haven't throughout the season, in my opinion.
I think you're underselling just how dumb and short-sighted that opposite tribe of Christina, Steven, and Sage is at this point. I think when you really sit back and look at it, the fact that we've said before, if you have an idol that everybody knows about for this long, is it really that dangerous? Rizzo has what is going to be maybe one of the more important immunity idols we've seen in the new era that's going to play out probably next week, is my guess. It's now the fact that we are now going into final 6, right? With Rizzo still has his idol that everybody's known about for about 5, 6, 7 tribals now. One that he basically threw in their face last week and played a fake idol. They are still allowing that to be in the game. They don't know that there's knowledge is power still out there, which I don't know how useful that's going to end up being, but that's still out there. It's like I think the whole idea, and to your point about Christina too, whatever that was all about of her, she just doesn't like Savannah, so she wants to vote her out. Like, I think that whole thing has been like a little bit weird from a storytelling perspective when you don't do that at all here, and you were kind of made a fool last week. I think no one rationally pointing out, why are we voting out Sophie when like pretty much at the worst, she can just end up being a swing vote for us if we can really utilize her, especially when you have multiple people of Soph and Sophie saying that they're willing to throw Savannah under the bus. I understand Sage not being fully on board for that and not fully trusting that. You really don't have too much more to go after in this game to try to put yourself on top. To just go after Sophie because you think that, and that's kind of been Sage's whole thing. I've said it from the jump. I think Sage has really been building it up for the cameras, and I like Sage. I've come to like Sage, and she seemed at first like she had a head on her shoulders for what was the right thing to do in this game, because she's wanted to go after Savannah for quite a while now. And I know it hasn't really been a secret for everybody that Savannah is doing well and they need to get her. But I think between the stuff with Shannon and then now this, where you're voting out Sophie, who is someone you need to flip at this point, voting her out to get back at her for voting out Jawan, and you want to like kind of show off to Jawan and the jury when you have absolutely no winning game whatsoever. Like, I think if we're sitting here in 2 weeks and we're talking about Sage being the winner, I think we're talking about one of the worst winners of all time.
Don't think we have to worry about that.
I don't either, but it's like, if you're kind of sitting there watching this without any sort of additional knowledge, like, I don't know obviously she doesn't know who the winner is when she's kind of doing this. Like, I think that's just like really, really bad gameplay. I think it's really short-sighted. If Rizzo wasn't, people are very split on Rizzo. Apparently, people don't like Rizzo for the most part. From what
Yeah, we're talking about that. Before the podcast, me and Brian were before you jumped in, Dylan, kind of going over some pre-podcast things. There's this comparison that I keep on seeing between Rizzo and Xander that like I cannot wrap my head around, and it really I think it took so long for so many people to understand why Xander lost 41 that they've like kind of looped back around to like internalizing all of the wrong things about it and like just projecting those things onto Rizzo, and I don't think they're comparable at all. And I was one of the main people throughout like basically the start of 41 beating the Xander can't win drum. He's overrated. Like everyone who's saying he can win are missing the forest for the trees. And like I don't think that's the case with Rizzo. The reason that that Xander lost 41 and everyone's like, oh, it's because he had this public idol and everyone's like allowing him to just get through. No one's going to try to vote him out even though he has this idol. It's like the reason that people allowed that to happen with Xander in 41 was because he had no agency. He was not driving votes. He was like basically he was basically a non-entity in the strategic game. And everyone kind of like universally just agreed that he had no social presence, had no strategic game, he couldn't win. And they were like, fine, like, he can just coast to the final four, and then if he's there, he loses, and we're all just going to agree that he's our collective GOAT. That's not what's happening with Rizzo. Rizzo is driving the strategy of the game and has for the last like 4 or 5 votes. Like he's like almost single-handedly just picked the boot order since post the Nate vote off. Like he flipped the vote from Sophie onto MC. He called out Alex as a target directly and was like, I need to get Alex out because he's the one, flipping back and forth. He's a swing vote that I want to be in. He is the one who moved the vote onto Jawan. Like obviously that was a collective thing. And then here, he is the first person we see on the show calling out Sophie's name at the reward, and then that ends up being the unanimous vote. Like the story we're being told is Rizzo was running the game. That was nowhere near the story that was being told about Xander. People just like invented that as a thing that was not true in 41 because Erica's edit was so bad.
Yeah, and basically before the podcast, I said it's because Xander was handsome. Some people wanted to believe that he was going to win. Rizzo, same boat as us, big nerd. Some people aren't as generous with their evaluation of his game.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to like there's a segment of people that are just annoyed by Rizzo's presence on the show or like his personality, and then
which we've embraced the Riz God on this show. So
yeah. I love Rizzo. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see Rizzo play against real Survivor players next season. And for me, like it's apples and oranges, not just the same at all. And right now, like I've been pretty confidently saying I think Rizzo is the winner of the season for like the last 2 or 3 weeks.
See, I am at the point now where I do, because my one Rizzo takeaway from this week, even though I still think he's playing a very smart game, is I do think that he is kind of, his head has gotten too big for his shoulders. I think that's the second time I've said that in this podcast, for kind of with the tribe that is currently there, and maybe with the jury, where I wonder if that will be the kind of the deciding factor between Savannah and him. Where Savannah has played, I think people have become so obsessed with Savannah. Yeah. That I do wonder if it's almost like a blindsiding thing for them. And I think Savannah has played a winning game to this point. I just don't think that she's played a winning game when you're comparing her to Rizzo. And I agree with you. I think if I was just watching this game completely blind, I would too think Rizzo is the winner at this point. I'm just that's like a scenario I can see playing out. But I also agree with you. Now I'm more aboard with Rizzo winning than I ever have been before. I just think that potentially that's the scenario we're going to see. I think that would add a really interesting element. I think either way, it's going to add an interesting element to 50 with those two. And shout out Brian Wong, longtime listener. to other podcasts. Hopefully not first time listener to this, because Brian Wong is not aware of season 50. There are people out there watching it like that. So I think Rizzo's kind of like, it's both showboaty ordeal he's kind of got going on. I think it's fun to watch, and I think it was very well deserved at the last tribal, because once again, Juwan had now betrayed him like 2-3 times at this point, and was going to try to stab him in the back, and was actively trying to get him to flush out the idol in that tribal. Like, I think that's a big thing that gets lost with a lot of people, where I like Juwan. I think we need to not pretend like Juwan was some like saint, like that he was like playing this like goody two-shoe game. Juwan was very much a flip-flopper and was out for Juwan. Juwan was very upset whenever something was going against him, as like most humans are. And I think that when you take that out on Rizzo, that's dumb. I'm still a Riz God believer. I am like officially probably 50-50 though on winners for this season. I am split between Savannah and Rizzo hardcore. Part of me at first got very nervous for Savannah during this. And then like the edit quickly steered away because we hadn't heard from her at all. But yeah, I'm curious to see how it does play out, because like I said, I think the other tribe is playing so bad. And I pulled up an interesting article that was just written because I did have a question about if the knowledge was power, if Stevens block vote was activated, if it can still be stolen. And I saw other people asking about, because he didn't officially play it in this episode. And I guess once it is activated, it cannot be stolen. So that's why the knowledge is power. I'm just not entirely sure how much that's going to come into play anymore. Especially if Sophie had played that last week. That's the other big thing to talk about, I guess, from last week, is Christina playing her idol. If Sophie had stolen that idol last week, I think that was the time to do it. I don't remember if she knew about Christina's idol at that point or not.
She didn't know, but she suspected.
So that's a frustrating, where I thought we were going to get a very successful knowledge is power, and I don't know if we're going to get that anymore. But I don't have the faith in that faction to play it correctly. Them being Steve and Christina Sage, to play that advantage correctly. So I guess we'll see on that. But
yeah, it's very impressive that the knowledge and power has just not delivered in any season, including Australian Survivor. I in fairness, I don't know if it's been on multiple seasons of Australian Survivor, but the latest season it was on it, and it also wasn't anything. Just like, can we just trash this one? I don't like. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't get I don't get the obsession with it, because it's like, it's both an overpowered advantage and it's never worked somehow. Right. So like, it's literally the worst of both worlds, where it's like, it's never delivered in terms of entertainment value or like, agency in the game. And even if it did, it probably wouldn't be that like, it would feel kind of bad. Like it's the same thing that we saw like in Island of the Idols with the Idol Nullifier on Janet, right? Like it's the same kind of vibe. Like, yeah, the Idol Nullifier worked in David versus Goliath kind of accidentally. But like that also is like kind of a badly designed twist or advantage. And I think it's less badly designed than Knowledge is Power. And the Knowledge is Power is like, it's actually insane that it hasn't been used correctly, because it's so easy to use correctly and then just no one has done it. It's just
like the very first season it came, the players immediately figured out how to counter it. So I was like, okay.
But then everyone stopped countering it. And so like there was nothing to like, like Soph has had like 4 different opportunities to successfully use it this season so far, and she just decided not to for whatever reason. And we don't know why she's decided not to. She keeps talking about using it. We've had like 17 segments in the last month about the knowledge is power advantage, and it's probably just going to be completely inconsequential. And it's like, why are we investing so much storytelling capital into an advantage that has not been used yet? It's like, it's so bizarre.
I also, I want to clarify that article I was reading too, because I think I confused myself reading it, and I thought I had missed something that Steven had already activated it previously and then didn't use it, and then like it was something that carried over. So that obviously did not happen. This is a hypothetical of Sophie can only use her knowledge power at tribal, and he can only activate it before tribal. So then it's like it cannot be stolen.
She could have stolen it tonight.
Yes.
If he plans to use it at the final 6, she won't be able to steal it at the final 6 tribal council if he does the block. So it's like this was the moment if she wanted to use it on Steven, this was the moment. If she wanted to use it on Christina the time before, that was the moment. She had the opportunity to use it on MC and chose not to use it on MC. And it's like, is her plan to steal Rizzo's idol next week? That's the only thing that makes sense. It's like the only thing she can do with it at this point is at the final 6 steal Rizzo's idol. And it's like, what value does that give her at this point? Because she probably just has to play it at that, like she's just, I guess, using it.
She just steals it to play it on Rizzo.
Yeah, like what is the
waste?
Yeah, where is the movement from Sophie? Like, is she just like, okay, I steal Rizzo's idol, blindside Rizzo, use the idol on myself, I get to 4 with Steven, Christina, and Sage, and then like I am the universally considered target in the fire making. Everyone's going to try to get me out. And it's like, okay, well, maybe she's just like, okay, I get myself to there, 50-50, I win fire making, I win the game. Like, is that her path? So if that's her path, we have no indication that's the case, because that's not what we've been shown in her confessionals.
Maybe she can really sell it where she convinces Steven, Sage, and Christina that she is ready to flip. She shows them the knowledge is power. She's like, and then they in confidence tell her about the block a vote. She says, okay, let's go after Rizzo. You block his vote. I'll steal his idol. We all put votes on him. He's gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, she is going to steal the idol, play it on Rizzo. They're gone, which at that point I'm like, okay, Sophie's got to win at this point. I guess that's the only winning way I can see that.
Would that even be winning? That's pretty like brutally burning people for no reason.
It's like very convoluted for no reason.
It is protecting your alliance. Like if you're turning into a rogue agent. So it very much is like you are.
I would like to see it.
Ride or die at this point.
It would be good TV. I don't know if it would be good gameplay.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're hoping for at this point. Like, the knowledge is power needs to just have a convoluted end, and that'll maybe be entertaining.
If that plays out, it's pretty sweet.
I agree. As someone who loves, flashy but maybe somewhat pointless moves or convoluted moves, like I'd be into it.
As someone who's sitting in a warm office and sipping on Diet Pepsi, I feel like that I have a slightly more computing brain power than somebody who's been like starving on an island for 20 days at this point.
Especially when they're making them run laps around.
I won't knock them if Soph does not end up doing that. That is literally the only way I really can see that working. And not just stealing Rizzo's idol to play, just to do it.
But again, that wouldn't be like actually impressive, right? Like for me at least, that wouldn't be like if you have a 3-3 situation where one of the 3 has a block a vote and the other 3 has an idol and a knowledge is power, then the side with the idol and the knowledge is power should win out, right? Like that should. In theory, that's double the advantages, and they're 2 more powerful, to the first and second most powerful advantage of the 3. So like if we're just doing like advantage calculus here, like that's the side that should win, right? So like if that's what ends up happening, then like I'm not particularly impressed, even if it's flashy. Like that's just like the expected outcome for me at this point.
Well, I'm gonna need you to be a little bit more easily impressed, because I would be if that happened, and not just because I came up with it in my head 5 minutes ago.
Right.
If that happened, I would be impressed, because I do think that his block vote is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Like it, and once again, that is very important too. It is a block vote. It is not technically steal a vote, right? Because he's not getting another vote. So I did it myself earlier. Because that's another thing. I feel like she would need to officially ask, and it doesn't matter anymore. Mm-hmm. Do you have a steal a vote? Because that's what Rizzo kept saying back at camp.
Block a vote before?
Yes, we've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
I
like,
can't remember. There's so
no,
many.
so to my knowledge, the way the knowledge of power works is you choose idol or advantage, and advantage is just a catch-all term for everything that's not an idol. So I think that she could still have taken it. She just has to play it on Steven and say he has an advantage. And like,
I think she has to ask, right? Isn't
yes,
she
she has to ask, but she has. I think the parameters around the asking is you either say, "Do you have an idol?" or you say, "Do you have an advantage?" And advantage is just everything that isn't an idol.
Gotcha.
And so she knows he has something that isn't an idol, so she can just ask, "Do you have an advantage?" And she gets it.
I thought that. Go ahead, Brian.
Here's a question for you guys: legacy advantage or knowledge of power? More of a flop.
I mean, legacy advantage caused advantage getting.
Right, that's true. So the worst moment in the history of the show.
Yeah, it's not a flop in the same way that the knowledge of power is. Knowledge of power is a flop because it's taken up like a collective 7 hours of screen time in the new era for nothing to happen.
And
whereas the legacy advantage has caused things to happen. Just it's arguable whether those things are good or not.
The very first time the knowledge of power was played, it was defeated too. So that's like
immediately.
That's like the other big things that it was immediately defeated.
In fairness, Ken playing the legacy advantage is also pretty lame and showboaty for no reason. So, not the best. But Sarah getting the legacy advantage, was pretty smooth. But then, it ended up in advantage getting, which was horrible. So,
I mean, I think the moment of Sarah blindsiding Sierra but still getting the advantage is
better than anything.
Probably more compelling than So even if the advantage itself caused the advantage getting Suri going.
Yeah, I'll make this a clip for TikTok. So
it's just I don't know. I think Survivor has struggled to make a good advantage or twist since Idols. I don't think they've done a very good job of coming up with something better. They kind of took a few seasons to perfect Idols, and then ever since then they've been trying to recapture the magic that Idols.
Exile Island was good also, and they just have not done it for 20 years or 20 seasons or whatever.
Yeah, I think the issue with Exile Island is that it's kind of they kind of exhausted all of the potential out of it in the number of seasons that it's run, and there's just nothing particularly compelling to get out of it that we haven't already seen.
Right.
I think a big to kind of dial it back from advantages and to kind of go back to Sage, because I'm still incredibly frustrated with all that. I think because you go back to her saying the beginning of the episode to Sophie in a very emotional state, obviously, because you quickly just realize that you have blown your chances at winning realistically at this point, of saying that you just handed Savannah $1 million. I was going through kind of when the whole thing with Juwan and Sage kicked off, of when they initially sided, and they've been saying they needed to get Savannah and Riz out forever and to flush out that idol. And once again, they still have not done that. That initially that they voted out, they decided to vote with Savannah and Rizzo when they kind of kicked this whole thing off by voting out Alex, because Juwan was upset that Alex did not tell him about that Alex did not tell him about Christina's idol. Was that what it was? Juwan was upset with Alex about something.
Juwan was upset with Steven. That Steven had not.
Juwan was upset with Steven about that for whatever. So obviously, once again, voting out Alex kicked off kind of like this whole Savannah and Rizzo growing stronger and stronger post merge. So that was a mistake number one, obviously. The second was clearly you then take and you vote out Sophie, who was the only other really kind of like the last swing vote, once again, realistically, that they had left to kind of pivot towards that. I think that Sage and Juwan have almost done more at this point than Sophie did to enable Savannah and Rizzo. And I think that's once again, I feel like I'm rehashing why I dislike Sage in the beginning, because a lot of it felt like very performative. And I think that Sage has shown herself to her mindset in the game at times is correct. And once again, she had her sights set on Savannah, which I don't give her too much credit for being that early, because I think a lot of people are, and apparently a lot of people just don't like Savannah. Like even like at the tribal today,
Mhm.
Christina. From what we saw from Christina, that was a lot more kind of just, quote unquote, mean girlish than anything we've seen Savannah do to them at this point. It seems like Savannah's biggest mean girl thing she's done has like won and played hard so far. But once again, edits are edits. So I don't know what is going on behind the scenes to why they all hate Savannah. But I think that it's no Mitch. It's no Mitch just sitting there being like, I need to make this move. I got to make this move, and then not doing it week over week, where there is like still the drama and the entertainment there of it happening for Sage. And obviously we already talked about Jawan being entertaining, but man, talk about just not having any sort of self-awareness to what you're doing, and then calling out Sophie for saying you're giving Savannah $1 million. Because I still thought, and this is the other topic we talked about last week, I thought Sophie flipping on Sage and Jawan was the right move for her last week. And I don't necessarily know what her path forward with Savannah and Rizzo would have been, but I thought Sophie was still a very strong player and challenges to that point. So I do think that realistically you can think when you make that move that a bunch of people on the other side have been flip-flopping. Steven and Christina, what she talked about this week, have not opened up to me at all. Like it's kind of on the opposite side of Sage and Jawan, and Sage this week voting on Sophie, just like not considering numbers, where these other people have taken me in. Clearly we saw this week they were very easy to throw under the bus because they're doing it properly. They're playing the game in the proper way and protecting their threesome. But I think that Sophie doing that was smart. And I think that also selfishly, I was like, we're going to get a lot more Sophie and Savannah kind of going at it towards the end, which I thought was very exciting. I don't know. I guess I don't really know. I don't know what the thought process is for Sage and Jawan. I think that's my overall thought, is I don't really know what their goal was. Like they never really seemed to really stick true to any like one alliance. Like I completely forgot Jawan started this game with Savannah and Rizzo. I completely forgot about that because Jawan has bounced around so much at this point. I don't know what their end game goal was, because they did not establish any other outside relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what I was talking about when I was talking about the storytelling earlier on.
Yeah,
like we aren't getting that from anyone other than the trio, and we haven't basically the entire post merge. And so I think that's part of what makes a lot of the strategy kind of like frustrating and confusing, is because we're not getting those perspectives and those motives. Like the bits that we are getting are like contradictory and feeling like they're just kind of like used in the moment to build up the individual suspense for the one tribal council for that singular episode, rather than like some kind of overarching strategy that somebody has. And like I mean at this point it's just because it's clear that one of Savannah, Rizzo, or maybe Sophie is the winner, and that's just how they've decided to tell the story. And yeah, I don't really know what Sophie asked the Yellow Sophie's kind of plan was here. I guess her plan was that she just assumed everyone else would be like Savannah and Rizzo as a duo, or Savannah, Rizzo, and Sophie as a trio are going to be a bigger threat than me, which, like, I mean, that makes logical sense. Like, I would expect that to be the case. It didn't end up being the case, but like, I would expect that logic to play out, and it just seemingly didn't, because I think that Savannah and Rizzo are better players than her and outplayed her.
I mean,
yeah.
We still have an idol. And one of the better immunity players in this season. So it's just like, I don't know. It's very shocking. And I think at first I assumed that's what was going to happen, just because I didn't really think Rizzo or Savannah were going home this week. But I think after letting it settle, I'm like, wow, that was just a really stupid thing for all of them to do. And Steven, I get, yeah, okay, great. This is a situation where I don't have to play this advantage, and we can kind of like catch them on their heels next week, and basically limit them down to where we're almost guaranteed to vote out one of those two. But now I think
Savannah wins immunity.
I think that they're going to botch this, because I still see a final three of Sophie, Savannah, and Rizzo. Like I don't see them being able to pull this off. And if they do, it's just not satisfying because you just know that they're not that Sage, Steven, and Christina are just not going to be the final three there. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. No, I think that's totally fair. I don't really have much else to add from this episode. What do you guys think?
I think Rizzo is. I know we touched on it earlier. I think Rizzo is a grade A player from the new era. I really do. I think he checks off a lot of boxes that we've been looking for players. I think he's smart. I think he's very strategic with the things he does. I think that he's batshit insane for the fact that he still has an idol. I think that's crazy. And I think that Savannah, I think Savannah is someone I am going to be very, very interested to see play again outside and like based on how the season ends. I think that that's another. I think once again, I think kind of seeing her go at it with somebody like D could be very, very interesting. I think that's set up, and I also see why. Though they are the two they chose from this season, they are really the only ones I can see going head to head with like someone. I mean, like Colby. I hope to God Colby has a good showing because I think like you see some of them who has mentally kind of gone through the toughest parts of Survivor to then come in and verse this new era. I'm really curious to see how that meshes up. But I can clearly see why they're the two that was chosen. And it makes me very excited for 50, honestly. The one thing I think they've done really well in the past the new era seasons is casting. And so my hope and my expectation is that kind of like that melting pot of all those multi-era personalities coming together. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So that's kind of like, that's a crazy thing to bring out of talking about just 49, but that is something I'm looking forward to. And I think Savannah and Rizzo, kind of a good example, because Rizzo would mesh in with, I think, a lot of earlier seasons or maybe like middle seasons a lot better than I would categorize him in New Era. And so I am excited to see him do that. But the Riz God and the legend of Riz God continues to build. It is a shame a lot of people are not all aboard on Rizzo, but I guess like I said, people were desperate for a villain. I think they're just lashing on to the wrong one.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the Rizzo train, like I said, for weeks now, and I think that if Rizzo wins the season, I might even just confidently say he's the best player of the new era.
I agree.
I don't know, like the things he's been doing, just from like a social positioning perspective, and then also like I've talked about before, his like both his target management and also his target selection. It's like a very underrated part of the game, and he's. I think the Sophie boot this episode is basically a payoff from the move that he made during the split tribal to flip the vote from Sophie to MC. And that to me, like, just retroactively looks like the move of the season, because basically, like, if he doesn't make that move, then like this can't be set up. You know, they don't have the numbers to make a lot of the plays that they were able to make that when they had Sophie. They wouldn't have had Sophie as a big threat that had no social connection to Christina and Steven to be able to throw her under the bus in this moment. Like, there's just so many like layers to that decision that he was able to kind of see coming, and then also like preset up to have the conversation she needed to have at the time with Sophie to like bring her into the fold. Like, just like the amount of forethought that he had to like set up a social structure that benefited him is just like really impressive, and something that we haven't really seen to this level in the new era, in my opinion.
I think too, just having a really, really strong, and I'll throw Soph in this, but just a really strong alliance of what are basically the two best players in this season. Kind of stick to it. And to your point, he could have incredibly easily thrown Savannah under the bus when he was at that reward, and didn't. And I think just like the way he was able to kind of move through that, you know, we saw Kyle and Camilla last season. And I think I said the same thing where it's nice to see a season long alliance play out, but Kyle and Camilla is not the same as Savannah and Rizzo in the sense that like they have both been on top in terms of like gameplay and what they've accomplished, even though they've said that they were on the bottom when they were at the merge. like they have both been the clear front runner players from beginning to end. I guess that could be edit, but the fact that they were able to stick together this entire time, I don't see that breaking up at the end, unless it's the type of thing where they throw each other into fire together, and whoever comes out on top, it's like, yeah, that's the winner. I think, yeah, that's really cool to watch, and it's like something I've wanted for a while. So it's just nice to see.
Yeah, no, agreed. Should be interesting as it comes down to it. We're getting down to it, right? Only 2 more episodes.
Yep.
Crazy.
Final 6 and then final 5 is the finale. So yeah.
And season 50 right on the horizon.
Yeah, I got like
before that, the Traders. So
true. Yeah, so we'll be back to the Traders in January. First week of January, Traders comes back for season 4. We'll be covering that over on Meet You at Breakfast, the 3 of us plus Julia, and then basically right at the Traders ends, we're gonna start right into Survivor 50. We're not really taking any time off except for the holidays here.
I think we might actually have overlap.
We might overlap. Yeah, I did double check with the
I was very surprised to see we were getting a February. I wonder if there's more episodes. Maybe there is more episodes because they have a larger player pool of Survivor. I was just surprised to see it starting. Like I feel like we normally have gotten early March past couple of seasons.
Yep.
For spring ones. Yeah, very exciting. Very excited for Traders too.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll get a winter Big Brother season. I'm still holding out a little bit of hope for something there, but if we do, I have not room. We'll be back to cover it.
Yep.
So check us out there. And yeah, other than that, we got lots of stuff on the main channel. We can get everything. Put out a couple videos already this week. See if I do any more. We'll see what happens. Then there's also Those Fake Nerds. We could get sports and our newest channel, which is now titled History is Wicked. Go check that out. And other than that, Dylan, what do you got going on? Anything you want to promote?
No, nothing to promote right now. I have been playing some fun games. Nothing I've been streaming. I just downloaded Manor Lords on Steam, which is a medieval village building simulator. So that's been a lot of fun because I've been playing a lot of Age of Empires, but I wanted to not have to deal with the combat and more of the constant building of my army and more focus on my village. So it's a game that's in beta, but it's on Steam for $30, and it's very cool. I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's like top down view, but then there's a new where you can go third person, walk around the village, which I thought was pretty sweet. And kind of see how it looks. So if there's any nerds that are into that type of stuff, I highly recommend it. I'm very excited to kind of continue our staying consistent with our reality TV show coverage like we just talked about. So definitely just keep following us here.
Yeah, and Ben, anything you got going on?
Not too much. I'm excited to wrap this up. We got a couple weeks left, and then like I said, I did double check, and the premiere of Survivor 50 is the day before the finale of the Trader season 4, so they overlap by 1 day.
Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, we're not going to take any time off between those 2 seasons of reality.
We're not off until the summer.
Yep, right off in the summer. So,
yeah, and then Ben and I are right back at it for Big Brother.
Big Brother
in the summer. So should be fun. Looking forward to it. If you liked this, please subscribe. Check us out everywhere else, and we will see you in the next one.